The time is 7 p.m. Liam, would you call the roll?
Member Wyatt?
Here.
Member Owens?
Here.
Member McLeister?
Here.
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Warren? Member Matheny?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
6 present.
Motion to excuse Member Warren.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll start with personnel and safety. David.
Okay, so what's on the table is updating and changing and amending provisions in Chapter 137, Department of Police. So some of the adjustments is fixing the Chapter 137 to remove dispatch, since it's now in administration. But also in here is adding an assistant police chief, a maximum of 1. It's taking the sergeants and lieutenants and combining them under ranked officers with a maximum of 6, reducing the total police patrolmen from 25 down to 22. No longer a lead dispatcher, part-time dispatcher, those have all been moved to administration. Administration might have some more to add, but I have some questions too, so if you might answer those in your presentation. I see the smile, go ahead.
Okay.
Mr. Young.
We'll see how much I anticipate. So in the 2025 budget, if y'all remember, we talked about the assistant chief of police position, and we're not adding a new body, but transitioning one of the supervisors into a I'm gonna call it active duty supervisor, so more of an office supervisor and less of an on-the-road supervisor, is creating that assistant chief position. So council had budgeted to start that position in the second quarter of this year. So with the passage of the budget, we're now coming back to you all to sort of get the paperwork in order to authorize the maximum manpower. Behind the scenes, we're currently working on writing the civil service qualifications and testing requirements for promotion to that position as well. So we anticipate that when somebody moves up to assistant chief, it will most likely be one of the current 6 sergeants or the current lieutenant, and we would not backfill that position. So your on-the-road supervisors would decrease from 6 to 7. As Chairman Matheny noted, all of the dispatch positions, we moved them all into Chapter 136, which covers just the dispatch center. Essentially, we're eliminating a duplicative listing there of maximum authorized manpower. And then for the total patrolmen, previously council had raised it to 25. We aren't currently at 25, we're only currently at 19, 20. So we don't need it to be up at 25, and we don't anticipate skyrocketing growth in the next year and a half.
So my question, and it might be best answered by Chief Kemp, is the way this is proposed, ranked officers being sergeant and lieutenants at 6. Under this, we're assuming that one gets promoted to assistant police chief, that drops it to 5. The way this is written, conceivably couldn't...
Currently we have 7.
Okay, down to 6. So the way this is written, is it conceivable that we could end up with 6 lieutenants and no sergeants? Should we keep them separate? Do you need a lieutenant on top of all the sergeants with an assistant police chief?
It would not be an easy step for them to get to 6 lieutenants from where we are at now. Conceivably, the conversations that we've had within our department is trying to keep that, the multi-step that we have. The chief, the assistant chief, one lieutenant position, and the sergeant positions. Much like how the fire department just added lieutenants in there, that additional step. So that would be a civil service move to have testing and vacancies for that. That would also be contractual as far as conversations on that I don't think it would be an easy move for them to go, hey, we're all gonna be lieutenants now. No, it's not.
But the way it's written, and conceivably that door is open and would become possible negotiations for union contracts. Should we just state in here maximum 1 lieutenant out of the 6? Would be an easy fix.
We certainly can. I would say that at this junction in time, administration has no plans to request a lieutenant's exam.
So the request would have to come from administration before any position would become open?
So under civil service rules, administration has to claim that there is a vacancy and requests a certified list, which then triggers an exam in order for someone to be promoted.
Can you be challenged under this stating lieutenant, sergeant, lieutenant 6? Can you be challenged that there's a need if you have an opening for 6 positions? And it may just be a play on words, something that may not come about, but I just want to make sure we don't end up with.
I think you would have to have a vacancy created in one of the current positions now. So you would have to have a vacancy in that lieutenant position for that lieutenant position to be deemed as available to refill.
But the way this is written, it's ranked officer, sergeant, lieutenant 6. Would that be conceived as an open position of up to 6 lieutenants?
I guess my recommendation would be if you want to keep them separate, then it should say 6 sergeants and 1 lieutenant, as it does now, instead of 5 sergeants and 1 lieutenant.
What was the genesis of the structure of this, the discussion? Like, who brought this up?
I'm not sure who brought it up, but I think what we're looking at too, Matt, is the chief is an exempt employee. And there are times when you have things to discuss. And the second in command would be a lieutenant. However, that is an hourly position. And I think sometimes when you think in leadership, there is a separation between supervision and the leadership of an agency or department. If what's information is privy to someone in an hourly position versus in an exempt position when maybe certain decisions have to be made for the betterment of the department or for the agency. And so I think the assistant police chief would be an exempt position, which allows that leadership now to handle things that are at, for easier words, I guess, at their pay grade, okay?
Yep.
There are things that happen in an hourly and a union contract that maybe that information should be handled, or that planning or decision-making should be handled by your senior staff. And I think that was one direction of going with that. And my impression would be would the lieutenant position be trail off after a retirement, and we would stay with the sergeants, and then just having, at least you have 2 administrative people in charge. Okay, so when one's not on duty, you do have someone else there. Does that make sense a little bit? Okay.
I can certainly see the need for an assistant police chief. I see that as a definite need. The concern was the number of potential sergeants or lieutenants, and a simple fix of putting
Okay.
where it says sergeant / and just put 1 lieutenant in the parentheses, I think would fix the whole issue, because it would limit the ranked officer to 1 lieutenant. And if down the road you don't want to fill that position, then it's a minor fix to what's in there. Is that good for you, Chief?
Yep, that's good.
Is that the structure you want if it was a clean slate? Would you pick this structure?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Good. Any other questions? Then I'll make a motion to move. Where we at? Item 3A to the council agenda.
Before you do that, without the risk of continuing this conversation longer, what's the current number of sergeants and lieutenants now?
There are currently 6 sergeants and 1 lieutenant.
Okay.
One of the 7 of them is likely to
Right,
become
so
assistant
if we
chief.
change this to 5 sergeants and 1 lieutenant, if you promote your lieutenant to assistant chief, you now have to amend what you just did, cause you have 6 sergeants. Where if you leave this as a bucket of ranked officers, a total of 6, it gives you more flexibility in the future around that
I think what
staffing.
Member Matheny was saying at the end was listed as ranked officers, sergeants or lieutenants, 6, maximum of 1 of which may be a lieutenant.
I see,
Right,
okay.
because then the maximum would be 1. I don't want to see more than 1
Right.
down the road, or request to take the exam, or pressure to get to that. I don't think we need that extra level of,
I see, so not
Administration.
more than 1 in the lieutenant role, but 6 total
Yes.
of the bucket, I gotcha, okay.
Yeah, like,
okay. So we have a motion, can we get a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Street and alley, John.
Okay, 4A, it's an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton on behalf of the city of North Canton to enter into an agreement to participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation's cooperative purchasing program to contract for the purchase of sodium chloride, rock salt for the 2025-2026 winter season and declaring it to be an emergency. We do this every year. So, any questions? So I'll make the motion that we move this to a council agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And John again.
4B, Ben, can you help me out with this? I'm a little confused with this.
Can you bring up the map, Liam?
I have it right here on the slide.
Oh, even better, behind me. So, as you know, we've recently constructed a roundabout, city's first ever roundabout at the 5 Points intersection of Charlotte, Portage, and Williman. So we own 2 pieces of property, this little triangle here, and then this sort of curved rectangle, I'm gonna call it. And so the roundabout is here. We're just dedicating these 2 pieces as roadway that previously were not roadway. And that will let us stop paying property taxes on them and make Gina happy.
Okay. So any questions?
Nope.
So I'll make a motion that we move this to a council agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to utilities. Jamie.
All right, well, I was excited to give this presentation, but here, I think we have 2 gentlemen who've joined us here this evening. So we have Ross McDonald, who is the Director of Community Expansion for NOPEC, as well as Aaron Markovi, correct, and who's the Economic Development Director. So, gentlemen, I guess I will yield the floor to you, and
Okay,
you can take the podium.
thank you. Well, first of all, to the City Council and Mayor, thank you for having us here tonight. Once again, Ross McDonald, Director of Community Expansion for NOPEC. Little bit of background on NOPEC. I'll give some background, kind of the highlights, and then Aaron actually has a prepared presentation that you can see is on the screens now. NOPEC has been a government aggregator of electric and natural gas since the year 2000. We're the largest aggregation in the state of Ohio. And the easiest way that I can explain what NOPEC truly is, it's basically a Costco or a Sam's Club or a BJ's for municipalities to join in saving power and natural gas, cost on power and natural gas. We represent 243 and soon to be 244 communities. Norton will be joining us this evening, getting through their final legislation. We represent those communities though as one aggregation. So the idea is that you can buy electricity in bulk as one entity and save a lot of money for your residents. We're close to almost 1 million residents in the state of Ohio. We are very much saturated up here in Northeast Ohio, but we're expanding into Central Ohio. And once again, that's a good thing for folks that live in an OPEC community because the more the merrier. The economies of scale kick in and we can save even more money. On top of aggregation, there are many other things that we're able to do for communities. On an annual basis, we are giving back grant dollars to the city to the tune of $5 per account. So we're projecting somewhere around, would we say 6,000 to 7,000 for the city, number of accounts for the city of North Canton. And Aaron has a quote, we project it to be about $28,000 a year coming back to the city in the form of energized community grants. Tonight, I also am proud to announce that our CEO has authorized a one-time unrestricted grant in the amount of $10,000. And that would be used to help transition the city from your current broker or consultant into the NOPEC aggregation. There may be, during that transition period, I was warning Mr. Young that I will be bothering him probably. And if we're so lucky to transition with you coming and joining our aggregation, I will be working very closely with Mr. Young and Ms. Farina to ensure that there's a seamless transition from your prior provider to NOPEC. We double-checked all of our schedules this afternoon with our supplier, who is NextEra Energy, and we're confident that we can meet all of the requirements in the transition period, but we will all have to work together. And I know, having met this administration, having met Mayor Wilder, we have all the confidence in the world that we can make this happen. So with that said, we want to be mindful of everybody's time tonight, so I'm going to turn it over to my partner here, Aaron Markovi, and once again, we appreciate the time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Ross, thank you, and to the council, mayor, and administration, I'd like to reiterate our gratitude for being able to speak in front of you this evening. My name is Aaron Markovi, Director of Community Investment and Economic Development. I have the privilege of being the individual who oversees our grant programs, our lending programs, and a number of other things. I also liaise with the NOPEC Foundation. We have those in your packet. We generally can talk about these things, ad nauseum, but we were going to try to narrow that down to just a couple of minutes. So, Mr. Otter, if I could ask you to kind of go through reasonably quickly here, and if there are any other questions in the packet, you also have my and Ross's contact information. We're more than happy to have a phone call, come, take a visit, or what have you, or certainly to be able to establish any sort of cadence of information sessions for your residents or small businesses as well. So if you please, thank you. So as Ross said, 240 communities, now going on 244. Watchdog for consumers, you'll notice that if a utility seeks a rate increase that is felt between us or the Ohio Consumers Council, for instance, or other consumer protection groups as inappropriate, we will step in on behalf of our collected customer base. We also are energy educators, so we do workshops for small businesses and nonprofits. We do a lot of community site visits to be able to let people know ways to save energy or what their bill breakdown is. A lot of times people just don't understand the components of it. Thank you. In addition, our financial audits are second to none. So this is something that as a council of governments, as Ross mentioned, we are public employees. And we take that very seriously. So we have actually earned the Auditor of States Award 6 times. You're not going to get that with a lot of private brokers, not that there's anything untoward, but we go the extra mile to be able to disclose our financials robustly. Yes, thank you. We also give away grants. So we have given away over $50 million so far in this program. We generally give away about $4.5 to $5 million every year. Our estimated grant, which would begin 2026 for the city of North Canton, should you select us as your energy supplier, is approximately $29,000. Depending on circumstances surrounding, we have an adder for that if it's a multiple utility community. So if it's natural gas and electricity, that we, again, harness the economies of scale to be able to give a larger grant. But that's a separate conversation, none of that is contingent. Those can be used for a number of different things, roof, HVAC, et cetera, the list is there. We also have a do not knock program. I'm not sure if this is something that you experience in North Canton or not, but a lot of times door knockers who tend to, not to cast aspersions, but tend to go after somewhat vulnerable communities, knock on the door and say, hey, can I take a look at your utility bill? Can you tell me your, average budget or whatever like that. We actually maintain a list for a number of our different communities and work with the cities to be able to make sure that any for-profit companies that do that have restrictions upon them. does not include things like your churches or the nonprofits, Girl Scouts selling cookies or whatever, that's exempted from the legislation. But we help cities maintain that list to take the administrative burden off of the city. Please. We also have community event sponsorships. These are much smaller, but they are meaningful, and this is anywhere between $500 and $2,000, depending on the size of the event. We're flexible with that. But that's for your, home days type things. It's great. We come set up a table. We make sure that there's a little sponsorship, and we answer people's questions. We give away LED light bulbs. We talk to people about how to save on energy. Some people ask about the renewable energy credits. Green energy is important to some folks. We do have a green energy offering. That green energy offering is exceptionally affordable, and that's largely because NextEra Energy is our supplier. They're the largest supplier of green energy on the planet, 37 gigawatts. I don't know how big that is, but it's a lot. It's wonderful for city officials, regardless of what program a specific citizen is looking at. And the reason is, since NextEra actually predated the Department of Energy's REC certifying program, and they did so robustly that the Department of Energy copied their certification program for the Department of Energy's, there's a very high degree of trust that the renewable energy credits that a citizen or a business might purchase has a very validated chain of custody. So that way, if a citizen purchases this and they hear in the media or something like, oh, someone stepped on this 2 or 3 times already, it's been resold and resold, I think I'm getting a scam. As a city council, you actually have a chain of custody that you can point to through our supplier that it really is second to none. We also have programs for small businesses. So we established a grant program directly for small businesses. That's for-profit businesses if they're considered a small business in the eyes of the SBA. So that's generally, depending on the industry, under 500 employees. These are direct dollars that can be given to that business to be able to help pay for an energy audit. And we also, if you wouldn't mind advancing to the next slide, anywhere from 60 to 100%. We established a preferred partner network because a lot of times small businesses, we do a lot of work with pizza shops, we do a lot of work with laundromats. They come to us and they say, an energy audit, that sounds great, what is that? We educate them as to what it is, and then we have done a statewide RFP to be able to get a preferred network who we don't explicitly endorse, and there's no financial relationship between them and NOPEC, but they have agreed to a certain enhanced level of service for those small businesses to be able to get these energy audits done. Why do that? First of all, it's really good information. It provides a roadmap for the business to be able to learn how to save energy over any period of time, depending on the kind of work that they might do. But in addition to that, this is oftentimes the table stakes for any kind of lending program that might come from NOPEC or from the state, the Advanced Energy Fund of the Department of Development for the state of Ohio. Any number of these things, an energy audit is oftentimes the first step. So we try to make that a lot easier, tell them what it is, where to go, and help them pay for it. If you could please, thank you. And that leads me into our lending programs, and you can just sort of go through the points here. We have 2 lending programs. One of them is a small cap, one of them is a large cap. The small cap is our STEP program, Savings Through Energy. These are fabulous for a small business or a municipality or a nonprofit. Pretty much everybody under the sun is eligible for these. And these are loans, so they have to pay them back, but they're very easy and accessible. The closing costs are kept very low because we generally eat all of them, with the exception of about $1,200. So last time anybody bought a house, if you're getting a loan for $125 and your closing costs are under $1,300, that's a pretty good day. And we're able to offer these for 10-year notes at 5%, which again is probably not the absolute best money that a municipality might find, but certainly for a small business, it's a lot better than the market, SBA 7A or 504 loan. And we also work with the borrower, the small business owner, to be able to stack these lending products with other things that they might be getting, and we'll turn them on to other things. For example, the Advanced Energy Fund, or any other state level grants if they're working on a brownfield project, for example. A lot of opportunity there. Part of our job is to be able to consult with a lot of those nonprofits and provide some advice. We can go to the next one. So Mr. Young is very familiar with this, but PACE programs, there's about 22 lenders in the state of Ohio, give or take, that operate a property assessed clean energy program. We're very proud to be one of them. Most PACE deals are multiple millions of dollars. So we decided that small businesses, nonprofits, and small municipalities should be afforded the same opportunity to be able to take advantage of those loans as a big skyscraper or stadium or something like that. So we invented this program. Again, we keep the closing costs exceptionally low, but our program only goes up to $1 million. The average deal in my portfolio right now is about $450,000. Most of their employees are fewer than 10, and the average interest rate is about 3.5% to 4%. Now, we did have to raise with the economy to about 5%, but it's still a very solid deal to borrow $1 million. Those can be used for all sorts of different qualified energy projects, and we walk people through the process so that it's effectively a no money down type loan that is secured by the building, and they repay it through the taxation system. It's also something the city can take advantage of. If you could, very quick list, so many things can be covered by PACE lending, anything having to do with the, and I'm a big proponent of these things, anything having to do with the building envelope, the mechanicals, the lighting, even if somebody wanted to do solar, for instance, it's all coverable under this lending program. Good. Thank you. We took a look at the, sorry, I need to go back just one thing. We took a look at the recent budget that came out and the capital expenditures for the city of North Canton. Should the city join NOPEC, and should the city want to take advantage on its own of a PACE note? Now, the city's perfectly capable of finding money in a lot of places, the bond market, for example, or issuance or what have you. PACE might not be a bad option, especially if it meant that you were able to go with more energy efficient appliances and any of the number of renovations that are currently going on in the city or will go on in 2025, to be able to free up that liquidity for other projects. And it's not to say that it hasn't been well thought about, but this is another option of capital that does, again, not constitute debt, so there would be really no serious budget need. Of course, you have to pay it back over time, but it stretches it out, and by promoting the energy efficiency piece of it, that really helps alleviate the overall operating costs of the debt service. This is my penultimate slide. So we also started a foundation several years ago. These are smaller grants. They are competitive, but unlike the grant that we mentioned earlier, the NOPEC Energized Community Grant, which is about that $29,000 that would be in a way entitled to the city by membership. This is a separate program, and although municipalities are permitted to apply, it's also available for nonprofits. So they give away grants anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 a year, and so long as the corpus of the effort from a nonprofit happens within a NOPEC community, they are eligible to apply. And it's a lot more than just energy efficiency stuff. It's, a lot of food, we do a lot of food banks, that's great, a lot of food pantries, firefighter equipment, that kind of thing. We just did the, Saybrook Township had a water rescue team that we did all the survival suits for, so that was a really fun one too. And thank you, I'm sure I blew past my time, but thank you very much, I think that's everything. And I'm certainly happy to field questions now, or take it via email as you're, as scheduled.
Thank you, gentlemen, so very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Ross or Aaron? Administration, have anything you'd like to add?
I'll jump in and provide some additional context here. So the city, in 2018, I believe, passed the ordinance and the ballot measure to have an electric aggregation program, and we have a opt-out program. So that means that residents are automatically enrolled unless they choose to opt out. That, our current aggregation, so our current fixed rate for electricity is up this May 2025. And so our options are to either essentially go back to the market ourselves as an independent city through a broker, which is what we did last time, or join a consortium like NOPEC is functionally a consortium, but what is unique about NOPEC is they are a council of governments. So it is a bunch of other governments all joining together to try and get the best deal possible for our residents. And staff's recommendation at this time, we got some price estimates from the broker and some price estimates from NOPEC, and they're very comparable within tenths of cents of each other. But what NOPEC, in staff's opinion, really offers is all the other stuff that we don't get staying independent. Like, we aren't gonna give a grant to ourselves if we go with a broker, and our businesses won't be eligible for these small business lending programs and these financing programs, and our nonprofits won't be eligible for the grant programs. But if we join NOPEC, we can both save our residents money and open up these opportunities to our business community.
Perfect. Thank you for,
Thank you.
Yeah.
additional info there,
Thank
Ben.
you.
So, unless there's any other questions or comments, I would like to motion that we set the first of two public hearings for this ordinance on February 24th at 3 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'd also like to move that we set a second of the two public hearings for February 24th at 6:45 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'll make a motion to postpone until after the February 24th public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Jamie, 5B.
All right, perfect, and, yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
gentlemen very
Thank
much,
you,
yeah.
everybody, we appreciate it. Shall we head back to our house? I'm up in Willoughby, so if it's okay with the council, may I be
Absolutely.
dismissed? Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate it,
so very
everybody.
much.
Mr. Young, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow, sir. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good speakers. Thank you.
So item 5B is, as we move to working with NOPEC, this would be establishing their rules for implementing electricity, and so, or implementing their rules for their aggregation program that we need to adopt. And did I properly describe that, Ben, or do you have any additional clarity? I mean, that's pretty much what it is. So.
No, that's pretty much what it is. When we became an aggregate, we had to adopt our rules called the Plan of Operation and Governance, but by joining NOPEC, we need to adopt their rules.
So this, we would be doing the two, this would also be a part of the public hearings on the 24th. So with that, unless you guys have any questions, I would move that we set the first of two public hearings for this ordinance on February 24th at 3 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And additionally, I would move that we set the second of the two public hearings for this ordinance on February 24th at 6:45.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'll make a motion to postpone until after the public hearings on the 24th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We'll start this back up in 2 minutes. special council meeting of February 3rd, 2025. The time is 7:36 p.m. Opening prayer, Jamie.
All right, we can all rise. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the ability to come together for this meeting and to do the business of our city. Please be here with us tonight and with those not able to join us. Please watch over the city and this great country. In your name we pray, amen. And additionally, so you're getting ready for the pledge. Additionally, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for President Stroya's mother who passed away this afternoon. So,
Thank you.
amen. So.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liam, would you please call the roll?
Member Wyatt?
Here.
Member Owen?
Here.
Member Cleister?
Here.
Member Stroya? Member Waring? Member Matheny?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
6 present.
Okay, motion to excuse member Waring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have no one that signed up for public speak, so we will skip that section and move to old business. Liam, would you please read the title of ordinance 7/2025?
An ordinance amending chapter 192, income tax, of the codified ordinances of the city of North Canton to increase the rate of municipal income tax from 1.5% to 2%, beginning January 1st, 2026, for the purpose of providing funds for the purposes of general municipal operations, maintenance, new equipment, extension and enlargement of municipal services and facilities, and capital improvements.
Okay, this is member Waring's committee, but I'll just open it up for discussion.
Mayor, do you wanna make your announcement?
I can. I was gonna wait after they voted on things, but I think as we have been discussing, I think it's very plain that the city cites limited expiring and otherwise insufficient funding needed to address maintenance of nearly 80 miles of grant ineligible residential highways, ongoing time fire EMS services, and compounding deterioration of our existing fire and EMS facilities that fail to meet modern operational and safety standards. Again, if council approves tonight and is passed by the voters in May of 2025, the proposed 0.5% increase, income tax increase, would generate approximately $3,658 and additional funds annually to be used as follows. And we've described that in three forms. So much of that money will go to the operations of the North Canton Fire Department. That's $2.279 million. $1 million per year would be allocated to construct a new modern fire and EMS facility. And my notes show also we are looking at $354,218 per year that would be dedicated to the residential road paving. Without further ado, would like to share something that I gained last night, and I'd like to share it with you like this. I stand before you tonight to highlight a remarkable and enduring partnership, one that has shaped the very foundation of public safety in North Canton. The relationship between the Hoover Company, the Hoover family, and the Hoover Foundation, and the North Canton Fire Department is one of shared history, commitment, and unwavering support. From the earliest days, when our fire department was a volunteer force, Hoover executives helped to organize it and maintain its first firefighters, where many of its first firefighters were Hoover employees, men and women dedicated to protecting their community. As the city grew, so did the need of the permanent fire station. And in the early 1970s, Hoover, as North Canton's primary employer, played a pivotal role in making it a reality. Through an income tax increase, Hoover helped fund the construction of the department's first dedicated fire station. But their generosity didn't stop there. they donated lot 425, which along with the land and the Whitwer family became the site of the fire station number 1, an essential cornerstone of our city's emergency response. In 2004, as the department looked toward the future, Hoover once again stepped forward, offering 1.5 acres of land for a new station, provided the city could fund its construction. Unfortunately, we could not meet the challenge then. But now, more than 20 years later, as we are still seeking to build a modern facility for a fully staffed professional fire and EMS team, the Hoover Foundation is once again standing with us and has offered a new challenge. They have pledged $750,000 grant over 3 years, an extraordinary commitment to the safety of our residents contingent on the passage of the income tax proposal before us. To me, this is more than just funding. It is a legacy of partnership, a testament of Hoover's belief in this community, and a challenge for us to continue investing in the safety and well-being of our families and our neighbors. The Hoover name has always been synonymous with innovation, leadership, and community service. Their continued support for this cause reaffirms that tradition. Tonight, I urge all of us to recognize the moment for what it is, an opportunity to honor that legacy of securing the safety and future of our fire and EMS services. Let's ensure that just as Hoover has stood by us, we stand ready to meet the needs of our city for generations to come. Thank you. That's why I believe this legislation is so important for the benefit of our community and for the future generations that are going to be here after we're gone. Thanks.
Wow. That's great news.
That's incredible.
That's great.
Well, you know, we've had discussions about trying to find outside sources and funding, and I've said that before. And here we are trying to do that, to move this project forward for our community for the next 50 years. But it's an integral part, it's tied in with this passage. But I can't thank the Hoover Foundation enough for coming forward with this commitment. Again, if for some reason the income tax does not pass, then there is no obligation by the Hoover Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But I thank them for their commitment and their willingness to stand by us as we go forward for the betterment of our community.
Wow.
It's extremely generous.
Thank you for this,
Absolutely.
right, for that moment there.
Wow. Yeah, big thanks to the Hoover Foundation. So.
Thanks, man.
Any further discussion about ordinance 7?
I do have a question. It was in regards to newspaper article. Could you explain what's this about this 8.5 million carryover? Is that a misquote? Could you maybe explain that for us, Ben?
Absolutely. So the city does presently have a 8.5 million carryover, and it's very similar to the federal level where we have in each year, we have either a deficit or a surplus, and then overall, we either have outstanding debt or a carryover. So our 8.5 million carryover is the cumulative savings of the city over all of the years the city has existed. We currently are carrying with us 8.5 million in savings.
So like a savings account or an investment account?
Kinda, yeah. Kind of like a rainy day fund.
Mm-hmm.
So half of that, roughly 4 million, is the city's required minimum carryover. So we talk about that with every budget cycle, that we have to have a 25% required minimum carryover. So that's roughly 4 million. 1.6 million is the 2024 one-year surplus that we talked about last week, and that you all graciously agreed to dedicate to paving streets. So that leaves us really with only about 3 million in true savings left over in the account, so to speak.
Okay.
Over and above the minimum required by state.
Right. Right.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah,
that.
thank you for
You
that.
said we had like 8 million, and then 4 million is for what then?
Is this state audit minimum required carryover?
Okay, I thought that was 25%.
25% of our revenues, which are 16 million, so
Okay.
16 million divided by 4 would be 4 million.
So, and I appreciate that because I'd seen some comments on Facebook that were talking about an 8.5 million carryover from 24 to 25, and knew that not to be the case. The true number is 1.6 million that we had that surplus, which we dedicated to doing the roads over the course of the next few years. So, thank you for that explanation.
And one of you had asked me earlier, how did we go from having a deficit to suddenly having this carryover? And the answer is we didn't go from having a deficit to suddenly having a carryover. We only had a deficit because there was carryover to spend. If there had been no carryover to spend, it would have been legally impossible, given the laws of the state of Ohio, to have a balanced budget, to have a deficit year. We would have been required to lower our spending to have a truly balanced budget like you achieved this year.
Mhm. And again, we do have a truly balanced budget this year, so, okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion? So I'm gonna make a motion to adopt ordinance 7, 2024, 25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And moving on to 6B. Liam, would you please read the title of Resolution 8, 2025?
A resolution directing the Board of Elections to place upon the ballot at the special election to be held on May 6, 2025, the question of increasing the City of North Canton's rate of municipal income tax from 1.5% to 2%, beginning January 1st, 2026, for the purposes of general municipal operations, maintenance, new equipment, extension and enlargement of municipal services and facilities and capital improvements, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Leon, I think you said special election, I think this is just the primary election, isn't it?
It will be on the special,
The special.
after further clarification. Yes, and it's in the legislation as special.
So, we, North Canton, this is a very semantic thing that legal got. I'm gonna do my best.
There you go.
We, North Canton, do not have a primary in May because our local offices do not have primary elections. Therefore, for us, North Canton, May is a special election. Which Melissa, who worked at the BOE, is nodding, so.
Good to know.
Yeah, good
Thank
catch.
you.
Okay, open for discussion. It's kind of what we just had, so. I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt the third reading of Resolution 8, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Liam, would you please read the title of Resolution 9, 2025?
A resolution stating the intention of North Canton City Council to not seek renewal or replacement of the city's existing street paving, EMS operating, and fire suppression operating levies if voters approve a 0.5% income tax increase at the ballot box in May 2025.
Okay, so this is a reiteration of our commitment to not put those levies back on. Open for discussion.
Yeah, I wanted to add a couple things, because this was part and parcel to some of the things that I've seen online, where folks say, well, geez, I just don't trust them. They're gonna say they're not gonna do it, and then they're gonna sneak a levy in, and that would be impossible. So and we all know here, and I think it's best to repeat it, that a levy doesn't just simply happen. A levy can be suggested by the council, which we're here committing not to do, but the public ultimately votes on it. So there's not even an ability to pull any wool over the eyes, and I think the seven of us are all demonstrating here by the fact that we're on our third reading, and presuming we pass it here tonight, we're all committing to the fact that we don't intend to pull the wool over anybody's eyes and try to seek another levy, so.
It's just this council too.
I mean, I guess we could all get hit by a bus tomorrow and there
Right.
could be 7 new people sitting in these seats next
Right.
week and
Right.
they could, I mean, yeah,
This just commits us.
This
We're not
commits
gonna
us.
renew
I,
anybody.
I think Mr. Matheny nailed it the last time.
Yeah,
It goes to the voters.
it did, well, that's what I just said,
Yeah, I
here. It goes
agree.
to the voters, yeah.
It goes to the voters, and both of you have said that, and,
Mhm.
And I will say again, that I will not vote to put prior EMS street levies out there for the well, actually it's 5 years that we have extended the carryover
Mhm.
to supplement the 1.5, where it's $384,000. So, yes, I won't even vote to put the legislation on.
Right. I'll join you with that too,
Yeah,
so.
same
I won't
here.
either.
Yep.
And any resident can always go back and look at resolution 9/2025, regardless of whether it's the same council or not,
Mhm.
and say, this is what was promised, so I would hope that that would be used properly at that time.
Right.
It won't ever be, so. I'll make a motion to adopt the third reading of resolution 9/2025.
Second.
President Troy,
Yep.
in the spirit of what you all were just talking about, may I suggest a roll call vote for this? final third reading?
Absolutely. Liam, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Yep. Member Wyrick?
Yes.
Member Owens?
Yes.
Member Cleister?
Yes.
Member Stroya?
Yes.
Member Warren is absent. Member Matheny?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
6 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right. I know we don't have department reports on here, but does anybody want to make any comments?
We cannot do that, as this is a special council.
Special counsel.
nice try, President Stroy.
The mayor had a 20-minute speech, no, just.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?